Hi everyone, welcome to...
No, didn't clap.
Go. Hi everyone, welcome to the Miami Grand Prix with me, Mann-Bryans, and him, Ben Hunt. We're here at the Hard Rock Stadium, as you can see. Yesterday, great day really in F1. When you think about the Miami Grand Prix of the past, we had wet, dry sprint race, really interesting, won by Lando Norris in quite remarkable circumstances really then. Should we start there then?
Yeah, let's start
with the sprint race. Delayed by half an hour because of the rain, and we thought, oh, this might end up being a bit of a damp squib. Actually, when it got started, bless Kimi Antonelli, loses the lead at the start. He wasn't happy about that. He thought he'd been pushed wide by Oscar Piastri. Everyone then starts that train almost that we're seeing F1 these days, but then the track starts to dry up. A few drivers come in, including Lewis Hamilton, who benefited massively from putting the soft tyres on. And that started to almost trigger the chain of events that gave us a real action-packed end to the race.
Yeah, I think it was important here, obviously being in Miami and the race in front of the American crowd. We had lots of action, lots of accidents, lots of drama.
Yeah.
You mentioned the weather, that's always a contributing factor. I think that we saw lots of things, over the last couple of days. We saw the Kimi Antonelli pole. I think that is probably where we need to start talking about that. I mean, that was a sensational achievement. Youngest Formula One driver to take a pole position, 18 years old. I mean, there's lots to talk about whether he was the right man to fill the cockpit left by Lewis Hamilton when Lewis Hamilton joined Ferrari. All eyes on this young guy coming through, and Mercedes did back him. There was question mark as to whether they were going to have him or maybe go for Carlos Sainz, a little bit more experience.
Yep.
But they put their faith in this youngster. He's a rookie. He's done so well in the first couple of races, but for me, that was magical seeing him take that pole. It was a fantastic achievement. It was just a shame that he wasn't able to convert it in the actual sprint.
We only have to look at what everyone else had to say about him, especially Lewis, I think, when he obviously, people that he used to work with, Bono and people like that, and he posted, didn't he? This is great to see. Everyone was really happy, I think, that he got that pole position. And we go from there into, I guess, the
race. I mean, you mentioned before about Lando. I mean, it's quite an important moment that was, I think, winning that short sprint race, because he had his victory here 12 months ago, which kind of set him in motion for the Lando Norris that we're currently seeing at the moment, which was someone that actually drove Max Verstappen right to the wire in that Drivers' Championship, and he obviously came into this season as the pre-season favourite to win the title. And what we've seen is a really good start in Australia, but then since then he's been struggling to match the performances of his McLaren teammate Oscar Piastri. So in terms of a confidence boost, I think that was crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just quickly go through. We saw Liam Lawson hit Fernando Alonso, sent him into the wall. That was a bad accident. We saw Carlos Sainz click the wall and he lost his tyre as a result. But the one that really stood out, I think, was Max Verstappen getting released into Antonelli, wasn't it? Antonelli, again, unlucky. Max was fuming about the situation, ends up finishing last.
Yeah.
And what a week he's had at that point. He's misses media down Thursday, absolutely fair. He's just become a dad for the first time. Turns up on the Friday, race on the Saturday morning.
Yeah.
He ends up finishing last because of a 10-second penalty for the unsafe release. But then Max being Max, qualifying in the afternoon, just smashed it out of the park.
Yeah, and I think that sets the tone for the race. The fact that he, when the pressure was on, again he delivered. There's no disguising the fact that Red Bull aren't where they need to be in terms of the quality of that Red Bull car this year. But Max is able to deliver and make the difference, and I think that is so important for Red Bull. It's so important for the championship because it's keeping things interesting. He's come here. It was quite funny because yesterday I was talking about how becoming a dad may have slowed him down, and obviously he laughed it off. But he comes into the race, in good spirits, a new dad, plenty of positivity. That qualifying result would have boosted him even more, and I think this is interesting because Red Bull. A lot of people are writing Red Bull off, but maybe they shouldn't be doing so.
Yeah, he's keeping them honest, isn't he? He's keeping McLaren's honest. Otherwise, whilst it would be interesting to see those two go at it, I think in which we Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, having just that extra unknown element, unknown quality of being able to beat those two guys with inferior machinery, let's be honest. There's a new flaw on his car here, but everyone in that paddock will admit that the McLaren is the best car. We know that Max isn't happy with the Red Bull, but he just has that ability, that innate ability to get a result out of it. We saw it in Suzuka, we saw it in qualifying in Saudi, and potentially would have won the race if it wasn't for that 5 seconds in the first corner, the penalty he got there. So the McLarens today have got a job on their hands to get past him and to win this race.
Yeah. Of course, Lando's going to be there, isn't he? He's starting, in the top three. I think that he's ironed out the problems at the start, which we had seen was last year his Achilles heel.
Yeah, agreed.
He'll go wheel to wheel with Max at the start, and I think that is what we're really excited to see, these two title contenders vying. And then, of course, snapping at their heels, of course, is Antonelli, who's looking to seal a remarkable weekend.
Well, what a bounce back for him as well. It's a disappointment that he didn't convert that sprint race pole into victory, but then he comes out here yesterday in qualifying and puts it third. Such a experienced head almost on those young shoulders, even though he's only had those few races. Continues to impress. Max Verstappen in the press conference yesterday, everyone just seems to have all of these superlatives for the young guy, and everyone seems to want him to do well. I'd like him to. It'd be great to see him on the podium proper here later today. Everyone would like to see that. I think we need to touch on Lewis.
Yes.
Mixed emotions, he said yesterday, didn't he? Having got that third place, let's knuckle down. He said this is good. And then 12th in qualifying.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating listening to him talk. And yesterday he was very sort of, mixed emotions. The fact that he's had that high of finishing third in the sprint race, and then you counter that with 12th. It's not knowing and not understanding. It's not giving him a reference point. And I think that's the thing. Every time he gets into the car, there's an unknown. He can't rely on it being one or the other. It's the refinement process which he's done for years, but he's like starting from scratch each time, and I think that's the difficulty. When he was at Mercedes, he knew the drill. If the car wasn't quick, it would usually evolve towards the weekend and make improvements, whereas they're tinkering and they're not sure which direction to go in, and sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not, and it's quite disheartening, I would imagine.
More often it's not working as well, obviously. He also said every time we tinker with the car, it seems to go backwards. And I don't know, with Charles Leclerc as well, only 8th. It's just, you look at Williams, they're both Williams in the top 10. At the moment, strangely, seem a better suited team. And you think in the sprint race when Hamilton was struggling on the intermediates, Albon was right behind him, he was right on his tail. And almost at the moment, Williams are putting in better performances than Ferrari, aren't they?
Yeah, I think we're set for a belting race, actually. I mean, we could see a different winner. Let's forget about, those two. We haven't even spoke about the championship leader, Oscar Piastri, but hopefully we'll get someone, maybe even someone else, and a different winner on the top of that podium.
We've spoken about Antonelli. Let's just touch on his teammate, George Russell. Had a great start to the season, hasn't he? Yeah. Picking up points, really under the radar compared to Piastri, Norris and Verstappen. He's 4th in that World Championship, but he has been outperformed all weekend by Antonelli.
Yeah,
he said this is his worst qualifying of the year so far. Yeah. Will he have an issue, or will he be hoping that whatever the issue was, he can rectify it and maybe pick up another podium?
I think he'll come through. I think he'll be good. George is my sort of dark horse for the championship. He's being there and thereabouts and doing enough to pick up the points. And I think that I've seen enough of George over the years to know that he will be there or thereabouts come the end of the season.
Let's talk about the one other variable we haven't touched on yet. It happened yesterday in the sprint race, and that's what happens up there. Will we get rain? Will we not get rain? Who will want the rain, and who will want that track to stay dry?
Yeah, I think Lewis Hamilton will be wanting rain. Always performs well in the wet. It's more of a level playing field once you've got that factor of the lack of grip. And he will use it to his advantage. I think that it's all suited and pointing to him. I just think that he's starting too far back in 12th to make any real inroads, but hey, you never know.
Yeah, we want to see one of those where he comes in early, bolts on the softs and then sets it alight. The interesting thing is, the sprint race yesterday, Australia at the start of the season, the two races where we've had proper entertainment throughout, as well, it's been wet dry. Yeah. So maybe if we have that.
Yeah, and I think this race actually needs that. I mean,
I agree.
It's been criticised as being a bit of a dull race in the past. It uses a combination of a street circuit, temporary racetrack, and it hasn't led to great racing. I'm hoping that adding the element of the weather, like it did in the short sprint race, and we could be in for a blockbuster.
Well, join us later on this evening where we will go through what happened in the race. Until then, enjoy it, everyone.